Good evening, everyone. We'll call the meeting to order. The Sahuarita board members and district administration are meeting at the district auditorium. There will also be accommodation for up to 75 community members to attend the meeting. The meeting will be live streamed by use of YouTube, which allows for members of the public to view and or listen to the meeting virtually. If you need accommodations, please contact Betsy Palacio and email bpalacio@sahuarita.net. A link has been provided for any call to public comments. The 20 minutes will be allowed for reading of online, in-person, and in-person comments at the meeting. Any comments not read during this agenda item will be entered into the public record. We will adhere to the board meeting procedures to the extent practicable. An audio recording and or draft copy of the minutes from this meeting will be available to the public. We apologize in advance for any unforeseeable difficulties and ask for your patience as we navigate unprecedented conditions. If you could please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. We'll move on to roll call.
Governing Board President Kevin Opalka.
Here.
Governing Board Clerk Denise Reese.
Here.
Governing Board Member Sherry Lowell.
Here.
Governing Board Member Dr. John Sparks.
Here.
Governing Board Member Nicole Warner.
Here.
District Administration Superintendent Dr. Manuel Valenzuela.
Present.
Assistant Superintendent Scott Downs, absent. Assistant Superintendent Brett Bonner.
Here.
Chief Financial Officer Yusette Huey.
Here.
Thank you very much. We'll move on to the approval of the agenda. Dr. Valenzuela.
Yes, sir, Mr. Opalka, members of the board, I would recommend approval of the agenda as it was revised.
Thank you very much. I have a recommendation. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. The motion carries. We'll move on to the approval of the minutes. Dr. Valenzuela.
Yes, sir, Mr. Opalka, members of the board, you have in your packet draft copies of the minutes from the regularly scheduled meeting of the board back on October 27, 2021. And after your review and consideration, I do recommend approval at this time.
Thank you very much. I have a recommendation. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. The motion carries. We'll move on to ratification of the vouchers. Ms. Huey.
Good evening. Tonight I recommend payroll voucher ratification number 9 and new payroll voucher number 14 totaling $4,689,548.77. Additionally, I recommend expense vouchers 1031 through 1034 and new expense vouchers 1047 through 1054 totaling $16,488,683.31 for a grand total of $21,178,232.08. Excuse me.
Thank you very much. I have a recommendation. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you very much. The motion carries. We'll move on to the superintendent's report. Dr. Valenzuela.
Yes, sir, President Opalka, members of the board. A rather short report this evening. Kind of interesting observation that got my attention on enrollment. You know, we've been moving along fairly positively, and then I saw that minus 38 from the last meeting. So I called specifically Principal Dr. Ralston at Copperview and Mrs. Lazardi at Wrighton, and I said, is this true? Did you lose 10 students since the last meeting? And what I heard immediately without hesitation was, yes, I think it was kind of life's events. One school had 3 families that moved. One, I think, was military. And there's just family stuff going on. But the follow-up to that was the comment that as of even today, she was enrolling 3 new students. So I think it just kind of shows that ebb and flow. Just for the record, I think the positive side is that when you look at the blue line and you look at the yellow line, even as of today, we're still 426 students above prior year, and that in terms of our stability, that really bodes very, very well. And the only other thing I'd like to add is I I know that tomorrow's a very special day. I know our community is a very strong community with many veterans and many that are currently serving our country in the U.S. Armed Forces, and we certainly all know that our freedoms are not free. And so we say thank you to our veterans, and we look forward to honoring and celebrating them on this special day that's designated for that particular purpose, and recognizing and honoring them every day for preserving the blessings of liberty. So with that, I think that concludes my report. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. We'll move on to the governing board reports. Dr. Sparks.
Thank you very much. Just grateful to be here this evening. I want to express my own personal gratitude for the veterans that served our community and did so with fidelity, and I'm grateful for their sacrifices. That's all I have to say today. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Lowell.
No report, other than I thank everybody for their service in all branches of our military, and I hope everybody has an honoring day tomorrow as we appreciate our freedom.
Thank you. Ms. Reese.
Same on Veterans Day. Thank you to those who have served. I also would like to put a shout out to both Walden Grove Marching Band and to Sahuarita High School Marching Band, who will be competing at state this weekend. Best of luck to both bands.
Thank you. Ms. Warner.
I think everyone summed it up really well, so no report for me.
Thank you, and I as well echo the appreciation of all those who've served. So we'll move on to one of our favorite parts, the recognition of community, staff, and students. So the Student November Leader and Character Recognition.
Yes, well said, Mr. Opalka. This is one of our favorite parts of every month for our governing board. We recognize our students, and I would like to ask Dr. Sparks if you would mind doing the honors today. I think
Denise.
Oh, is it Denise? Okay,
Reese is gonna-
good.
Thank you.
We want everybody to have their turn. But again, parents, thank you for taking time to come this evening and to bring your students. This truly is one of the most special awards that we believe can be bestowed on a student, because it does symbolize students who are role models at the highest level in something that we believe is very important, and that is the importance of character, of virtue, of integrity, and of service in setting that example for your fellow students and for your community. These are students that will be taking the place of all of us in leading and advancing the ideals and the principles of our country, and we're very fortunate that our future's in such good hands. To honor you this evening, when your name is called, please come down, and Mrs. Reese will present you with your very nice certificate, your letter, and your gift card, which I think is still for Barnes and Noble, so that you can buy books, which is a good thing, and continue to read, because we know that readers are leaders. So keep on reading, and when we're done, you'll come through here, get your award, and Mr. Bonner will kind of guide you to the back wall. We have this new routine now, and Mrs. Woods will take your picture. And I don't know if you saw last week, it was a great picture. They were front and center on the pages of the Sahuarita Sun, where they should be, so everybody can know how amazing our students are. So we'll go ahead and begin with our leader in character from Sopri Elementary School. Congratulations, Carlos Guerrero. Come on down, Carlos. And next, we recognize our honorees from, look at his mask, that is such a cool mask. We recognize our honorees from Anza Trail School, beginning with our elementary leader in character from Anza Trail. Congratulations, Amaya Lamson. Come on down. And we also, again, because Anza Trail is a K-8 school, we recognize their middle school as well, their middle school component. And our leader in character is an 8th grader. Congratulations, Malcolm Waiters. Come on down. We now honor our Sahuarita Primary School leader in character, and she's a kindergartner. Congratulations, Grace Brewer. We now recognize our leader in character from Sahuarita Intermediate School. Congratulations, Amaya Pina. And we'll now move across the street to Copperview Elementary School, where our leader in character is a second grader. Congratulations, Liam Velasco. And next door at Copperview is Wrightson Ridge School, where again we do 2 honorees, starting with their elementary leader in character. Congratulations, Kirsten Jaseth. And the Wrightson Ridge Middle School leader in character is a 6th grader. Congratulations, Chloe Morgan. At SMS, Sahuarita Middle School, it's my honor to recognize another 6th grader. Congratulations, Bentley Murdoch. And finally, we do Sahuarita High School, Walden Grove, and SDPA. Starting with Sahuarita High School, congratulations, Isaiah Miller. And from Walden Grove High School, our leader in character is a senior, and her name is Isabella Pierce. And finally, our newest school, in case you didn't know that, SDPA is now an officially sanctioned designated school by the state of Arizona, Sahuarita Digital Pathways Academy, and our leader in character is also a senior. Congratulations, Grayson Grimes. All right, Amber, you want to take that picture? That little guy.
Should have shown him to you.
Hey, there we go. Hey, let's give them all a round of applause. Oh. Yeah.
Come and sit. She wanted her sister. There you go. Takes a village, including sisters.
Again, we congratulate all of them. We thank you, families. And families, you're welcome to stay if you'd like, but we totally understand that the evenings are busy and there's lots to do, so please don't be shy if you need to leave. It's totally understandable, and thank you again for being with us and honoring us this evening.
She wants to stay. Okay. She wants to
Thank you. I was just wondering, Betsy.
Okay, we'll move on to the call to public. In consideration and discussion of comments and concerns from the public, those wishing to address the governing board on items not on tonight's agenda may do so at this time or at the board's discretion at the time the item appears on the agenda. Speakers are requested to hold their comments to 2 minutes or less. 20 minutes will be allowed for both online and in-person comments. In accordance with the Arizona Open Meeting Law, board members may not respond, comment, or ask questions of speakers regarding issues not on the agenda. Any comments not read during this agenda item will still be entered into the public record. Ms. Reese.
The first speaker this evening is Amanda Edwards.
Hello. That might have been my favorite award ceremony by far. That was very cute. Oh, it was adorable. Okay, I'm here on a sadder note just to request that the schools, and I don't know if it's maybe the principal level I need to go to or the superintendent level, but when a tragic event happens at the school, to let all of the parents know rather than just the ones that you think saw something. Because to have your fourth grader come home and tell you in detail something that happened, and they did not see it, but they heard it from another student, it's hard for us to, I didn't believe it. I thought somebody is telling a horrible story. I had to reach out to the school to find out if it was true. And I just feel like as parents and the school, we should be a team. And so if we know what's going on, and even, I mean, obviously you wouldn't have gotten to me as fast as she did, but I just think, like, yes, something happened. I don't necessarily need all the details, but you know, it's not some bad rumor going around. And if your kid is having an issue or needs to talk to somebody, we have people here that they can talk to. It's sad. It was very sad. But I definitely think that needs to change. You do let all of the parents know the COVID numbers at all of the schools, so I think it's something that's doable, some kind of an email or something to reach out to parents. Hopefully nothing bad happens ever again. On that note, on the COVID note, I would love it, and I don't know if you're allowed to speak on it now or in the future, but for somebody to explain to me why, with the contact tracing, are you allowed to test at 5 days but not return until day 7? I feel like the contact tracing has kind of gone a little bit crazy lately. The numbers are up a little bit at some of the schools. But why 5 and 7? It doesn't make sense to me. Why keep them out 2 more days? If they're negative, they're negative. Let them go back. So I'm just curious as to how that works, because the kids, it does cause anxiety with kids the more school they miss, especially the older they get. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mary Grace Werner.
Well, thank you, and I'm glad to be here this evening, and you may be glad to know I'm not going to talk about vaccines, okay? What I'm going to talk about today is, you know I'm elderly. I don't like to use that word because even at my age, I have a lot of energy, and I still have very strong mental capacities, but it is difficult for me, along with other people, when we come here to actually hear what you're saying. Now, some of you, particularly the men, when they speak into the microphone, we can hear what they're saying, but for the rest of you, it's muffled and garbled. And we really do want to hear what you have to say, but we sit back here and we're like, what'd she say? What'd they say? What are they talking about? So I just want to let you know that. Now, I know you can choose to wear a mask or not wear a mask, and that's not up for debate. You are those, at least what, almost 3 feet distanced from one another, and you are greatly distanced from the audience. And my thought would be, it would be really nice if you're going to speak that you might feel comfortable just moving the mask down or up or off just for that brief period of time, and then put it back on. We'd really appreciate it, because then we can really hear what you're saying. And we do come here to hear what you're saying. Now, the second thing I'd like to talk about is, I know that you have the call to the public after the awards, and I really would like to see the awards after the call to the public, because I think there are some parents here that might be interested and benefit from some of the comments that we give. So it's just a thought, put the call to the public before you do the awards. And just to say, I love the awards. I love those kids. I love the appreciation that you give to them. I mean, school can be tough, and if you recognize them for even the smallest thing, it makes them want to come back. So you're doing a good job. I just want to hear you better, okay? Thanks much for listening.
Lou Sampson.
Gracie stole my thunder. But I would like to thank Mr. Downs, and he's not even here, because for the last 2 meetings when he spoke, he took his mask down, and we could hear what he was saying, because it really is hard. And another thing is, when you do the overhead projector, is it possible to enlarge that? Because, I mean, I have implants, and I have 20/20, and I cannot see that. And I'd really like to read it. And
23, which were already board approved, that we just add SMS into that identified school to be part of that whole group of no early release on the Wednesday of the last week of each semester. So that would be the only modification I would recommend to Dr. Valenzuela. Other than that, the calendar is consistent and supports what we've done historically.
And at this point, I would recommend the board's approval of the 2023-24 proposed school calendar with the noted amendments as presented by Mr. Bonner this evening.
Thank you very much. Just want to make sure that's the amended 23-24, but also the 22-23 and 21-22.
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right. So we have a motion, or we have a recommendation. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion?
Mr. Bonner, do you want to say that for the community members that aren't aware, last year SDPA graduates did participate in their feeder schools. The director was there. It was lovely. It was very well received, and it was very nice. So I just wanted to make people aware of that if they didn't know.
Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. We'll move on to new business, public online auction items. Dr. Valenzuela.
Yes, sir. In what has become a fairly routine event, we have a list of items, mostly furniture and equipment, and very old by technology standards, AV and technology stuff, that we'd like to put on the auction block to capture residual value as allowed, and I'd recommend your authorization of that action for these items.
Thank you very much. I have a recommendation. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Move on to donation of old equipment. Dr. Valenzuela.
Yes, sir, President Palka, members of the board and public. This is actually kind of a little bit of a twist on the same idea. By law, when school equipment has exhausted its useful life for the district, you have really a couple of options. One is the one that's the most frequent, which is you put it on the auction block and you capture residual value for it. The other thing you can do is you can donate it to a qualifying 501c3 not-for-profit. Like years ago, I remember we donated, I think, old books to an organization called World Care that used to do worldwide type of outreach and stuff like that. This is a little more homegrown. This is in the matter of the old, as you know, if you've been to any of the marching shows this season, the Walden Grove High School is sporting brand-new uniforms, which we are grateful to provide them, largely through the support of our local community and the district additional assistance override, I might add. But we have these old, they're actually 10 years old. We use them very, very thoroughly and get as much life as we can out of them. But when they're exhausted, if we put these on the auction block, you have to remove the copyrighted stuff like the logos, and they otherwise have no real value to anybody else, and doing that actually damages them. In addition to that, we have our boosters, our music boosters, that would like to take them as a donation. They are a not-for-profit, and what they're going to do with them is make them available for alumni who would like to buy them as nostalgia or something like that. And so we are, and they're going to take the proceeds from those sales to support the Walden Grove Music Program. So what I'd like to ask you to consider this evening is your authorization to donate the old Walden Grove band uniforms to the Walden Grove Music Boosters for this purpose.
Thank you very much. I have a recommendation. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you very much. Motion carries. We'll move on to the Statement of Assurance Teacher Evaluation.
Yes, sir. President Opalka, members of the board, as the board and public may be aware, there are very specific basic requirements from the state of Arizona in law about the evaluation specifically of teachers. They're pretty basic things. They're things like teachers have got to be formally evaluated at least once per year. There are certain specific performance classifications that have to be designated in the instrument. There have to be a certain number of days between evaluations if there are multiple evaluations. And there are now certain incentives that have to be built in for teachers that perform at the very highest level of this evaluation. We went through a major revamp of this in cooperation with our attorneys and our state policy body, the ASBA, when they reframed these policies, probably 8 or 9 years ago. Nothing's really changed. The only thing that's required every year is the board's certification that the terms and conditions of the statute, which is cited up there, 15.537, are in place in our local evaluation protocol. And I will confirm that those components are in place and recommend approval, authorization of this statement of assurance so that it can be signed and sent back up to the Arizona Department of Education.
Thank you very much. I have a recommendation. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you very much. Motion carries. We will move on to the compensation proposal. Dr. Valenzuela.
Yes, sir. Thank you, President Opalka, members of the board. This evening, I would like to provide you with a synopsis and kind of summary and a recommendation in regards to employee compensation. And I'd begin in the first slide by showcasing the fact that this board and historically boards that sat behind this dais before you have continued to believe that the greatest investment that we can make is that which we invest in our people. People are the creativity, the knowledge, the dedication, the service that deliver our product, which is the education of our young people. So you can see that historically, even in times, frankly, when other districts were not able to provide raises, we've done pretty well. Our teachers have gotten a raise, I believe, every year of one kind or another. I'm proud to say, and you can see it for yourself on our audit package if you go to the Auditor General's office, that the curve of our average teacher salaries has closed, and the gap between the Arizona average, which is largely weighted based on the data from Maricopa County where things tend to be bigger and higher, we've closed that gap, and we've approximated and approached that average, which we're very proud of, and we want to do even more. And the reason I share this data is because I think it sends a message about the vision of this board, the compass of this board. It also addresses the fact that if you scroll down one more, you'll see the current year, 21-22, it's 0. And that certainly wasn't by anybody's desire. The fact of the matter is, if we now go to the next slide, the past year has been a tumultuous, very challenging, very uncertain time for all of us. You can see some of the big variables for us. Every district handled this in their own unique context, their own unique challenges, health, financial, educational, technological. For us, one of the big ones was this huge drop in enrollment, 9%, about 600 kids. It sunk our budget to the tune of about $5 million. In looking at how we were going to handle that, we were keeping an eye on many variables, and this was not a static process. It was changing, and there were multiple plates moving. Think about it as the circus where the plates are all moving and you're trying to keep up with all of them. That was kind of what it was like. Of course, the big one was student enrollment. We knew that we didn't know what was going to happen. People were doing all kinds of things for their family that they needed to do. Some people were homeschooling. Some people had to move because of family situations, illness, some people because of jobs. And we didn't know what was going to happen. So we had to be extremely cautious with that. We also had different money situations going on. You all are aware of the multiple federal stimulus dollars, the ESSER funds, that was on the ESG, is that what it's called, is that? Yeah, stabilization grant. The ARP, they all have acronyms. The government always has acronyms. America Recovery Plan was the other one, ARP. So we're trying to manage all these things, and then we know that minimum wage laws came into play, that we have to navigate those, and those are not optional. We have to comply with those things. And then we had this gap funding from the state where, in my opinion, to their credit, they were trying to take care of districts like us who did not receive a comparable formula-driven amount of federal stimulus, because a lot of it was driven based on poverty index, on free and reduced lunch and those types of correlates. So we have all these things going on. So despite desiring to do what we can afford every year for our people and to take care of them and to reinforce our desire that they stay here, we couldn't do that in good conscience at that time. And we've always said we're going to try and come back to it. So where are we now? A little bit of an update. Well, thankfully, I believe thanks in large part to our community culture, our community engagement, and the hard, tireless work of our teachers and staff, our administrators, in very challenging times, which frankly they continue to be. But about 2/3 of our students have come back. And if you look around the neighborhood, there's houses going up on a fairly regular basis. Like I told you, when I talked to Ms. Lizardi and Dr. Ralston today, they both mentioned how, yes, they had some situational exits, but they had a handful of kids registering new kids today. So we're grateful for that. Like I tell people, growth, when we deal with the challenges of growth, like facilities and things like, I'm like, growth is good. It beats the alternative, smart growth. The other thing that we've been monitoring is this budget hole. Well, fortunately through, and I'm using these two examples because they're the ones that we're dealing with right now. The ESSER 3 fund provided about $2.7 million for us. The gap is this one that came from the state where, and it was contingent, it was reported contingent upon our compliance with those requirements, which we have. And so we're standing in the gap to get $1.7 million. If you do the math, it still brings us a little short, but through, our always resourceful and conservative budgeting process, thanks to Lizette, we have a small, cookie jar of enough to fill that gap to where we can top it off and be even this year. So the picture, although still fragile, we're still having struggles. We know that the pandemic ebbs and flows and changes, and different public health issues and different political issues, and we've heard about the vaccine mandates and all those things that are happening, but relatively speaking, our budget, we feel as a senior staff, is in a more stable and healthier state than it was a year ago, for sure. So in our minds, we want to address that, but we also want to look at some of these factors that are emerging. And that's, the next slide talks about a couple of them, and you've seen them. These are just examples. So we have currently 48 bus drivers, even though we're staffed for 68. And there's a variety of reasons for that. We've had people leave to make more money working for other sectors, public and private. We've had people move because of family situations. We've also seen that it's not just us, and it's not just money. I mean, we've all seen the very high stacks of container ships off the coast of California waiting to unload because there's not enough truck drivers to haul this stuff around the country. I think I heard today that if you didn't place your order today, you might not get your Christmas goods. So it's just part of the world, and so we're trying to manage that. The other thing is this minimum wage. It has to go up to, I believe, $12.80 by January the 1st. So all these things are swirling. It's kind of like this multifaceted quilt of different finances and operations and politics and all this stuff, and we're trying to make the best fit of it to achieve our objectives. In this case, it's to try and support the people who are working tirelessly more than ever to take care of our kids. So what is the fruit of those outcomes? This is the recommendation, and I can say, as you'll see, it takes into consideration that we have both one-time and permanent funding, or M&O. Those have pros and cons. The one-time funding we're grateful to have, but it's one-time funding. So we have to be careful how we use that because we can't sustain it over time. The other stuff is more sustainable based on the formula, but there's not enough of it to go around, and we have to be able to commit to it for the long haul. So we also are looking at things that are still fragile, like the enrollment. Yes, it's come back, but it's not all the way back. And there are things looming on the horizon. As you've all heard, I believe the board has heard, and for the edification of the public too, you've probably heard that there's an issue at the legislative level in regards to a 1980s referenced constitutional aggregate expenditure limit, which the legislature's gonna have to tackle it, but it has implications also for schools. So we're grappling with all of this. This plan, we feel, is responsible. It combines the assets that we have available in a responsible level that supports our employees. It achieves a lot of these objectives, and it validates our sincere desire to take care of our people, our greatest resource. So I'll go just point by point. They're pretty straightforward. With some of the one-time funding that we have for our certificated employees, which are our teaching staff and our administrative staff, the people who are on salary, I guess you distinguish it, they're already on contract for the year, and I propose providing them a one-time retention stipend, which would be payable, as it says there, on December the 17th. For our dedicated support staff team members, again, these are hourly employees protected under the Fair Labor Standards Act and subject to the minimum wage law. We are proposing a 50-cent per hour increase for all of these employees that are currently employed. And we propose starting that on November 27th. This does come out of maintenance and operations. This has to be sustained over time. So we've had many hard conversations where we've been sharpening our pencils and talking about being confident that we can sustain this. If you notice, we're not just raising the minimum wage by 44 cents for the people who we have to. That's, by the way, a relatively small number of employees that we have to comply with that. What we're talking about is not only meeting that obligation, going above it and doing it for everybody. And it's because we want to do something for every single employee. But two, it allows us to spread out this, what's affectionately known as, in human resources, as the compression factor, where you raise the minimum wage and then now everybody that was right above that now is feeling pressured because now they got people that were making less than them now making as much or more, even though they're in different categories. So we feel that this provides a bigger, an expanded wage pie, if you will, so that it moves uniformly. Okay, again, M&O, guest teachers, we've heard that substitute teachers have also been in short supply. It's just this national staffing thing, right? And they're vital. We've had to make some tough decisions locally. The biggest one is, one of the defining aspects of our culture is we believe in coaching and training and developing our people, that we believe that that's a wise investment. We've had to throttle back in a very calculated, limited way, led by Mr. Bonner and making those tough decisions. But part of it is we didn't have subs, and we need to make sure we have subs in the classrooms first, frankly. So we propose raising their daily rate from $95 to $100 a day. It's a little over a 5% increase. Again, this would be a permanent paid for out of M&O. And again, for consistency, we're proposing to start November 27th. The last piece is a one-time emergency stipend specifically for bus drivers, for those people with commercial driver's license certifications that drive our buses, and it's strictly based on supply and demand. And it's only for this year. We will evaluate it for the future, but it's for this year, and the way it would work is pretty simple. Again, starting with November 27th, right after Thanksgiving, anybody who is a school bus driver, fully licensed and certified, has their CDL, driving for us on November 27th, if you stay with us till the end of the year, you will be eligible for a $1,000 emergency stipend. The prorated piece is, if we hire somebody, say at rodeo break, where it's, say, halfway in between the beginning and end of that time frame, then you would get half of it. So it'd be prorated out if you're only joining us for half of the journey. Again, in summary, we feel that this is a responsible, it's a modest, I frankly wish we could do more, but in this year, at this time, we feel that this is a confident, balanced, and responsible investment in our people, and something that we've been committed to since the beginning of the fiscal year, which is finding a way to do something to show tangible appreciation to our people for their continued tireless dedication. And as I said at the beginning, the greatest investment we make is that which we make in people. So with that, I'd recommend your approval of these recommendations as presented.
Thank you very much. I have a recommendation. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
A motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Okay. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. We'll move on to the salary determination chart. Dr.
Yes, sir. Thank you, President Obaka, members of the board. This is a correlate to the proposal. It's actually the support staff chart, and Mr. Downs will probably explain it with more detail than I. Basically, what he's done is he's made sure that it updates with the approval which you just made. It brings the minimum, the lowest category, up to the minimum wage, and it fans everything up to that 50-cent tier. What he did, and he's really is working with cents on the dollar, but what he did is he wanted to make sure that it went up, it was accurate, but that it doesn't, that it doesn't go above where current people in current positions would be making less than somebody new coming in the same point. So that is the new determination, I guess, I don't know if it's called the determination chart. Yeah, salary determination chart, wage schedule for support staff, reflective of the changes that were just approved in the compensation proposal. So after your review of the document, I would recommend your approval of the updated wage schedule as presented.
Thank you very much. I have a recommendation. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All right. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. We'll move on to the consent agenda. Dr.
Yes,
Thompson.
sir. President Apaka, members of the board, you have multiple items of routine matters that can be considered in one comprehensive motion, and I do recommend your approval of the consent agenda in its entirety at this point.
Thank you very much. I have a recommendation. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion?
I always appreciate under the gifts and donations and actually everything under the consent agenda, but I specifically wanted to thank Rincon Air Conditioning Heating for donating a pair of shoes for every single one of our students in one of our elementary schools. It's a pretty amazing gift to make sure that these kids have new shoes, and just grateful for people who are doers and actually take the time to do something for these kids. And also the GoFundMe, Walden Grove Law and Public Safety raised, I think, over $8,000. Is that right?
Yeah, $9,000.
$9,000, pretty amazing. And so just a shout out to all those people who are donating and looking out for our community and how much it's appreciated.
Thank you very much. Any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you very much. Any future agenda consideration items? No? Okay. The next board meeting will be on December 8th here in the Sahuarita District Auditorium. And we are, let's see. So we're going to go into, I need a motion to go into recess for an executive session where the discussion of or consideration of records exempt by law from public inspection, including the receipt and discussion of information or testimony that is specifically required to be maintained as confidential by law or federal laws will take place.
Mr. Parker, I think we usually do roll call vote on this.
Okay. Dr. Sparks,
Yes, aye.
Ms. Lowell,
Aye.
Ms. Reese,
Aye.
Ms. Warner,
Aye.
and I. So we'll move into the executive session. Appreciate everybody coming this evening. If you want to hang out outside, we can call you back in later, but we don't know how long that will take.
And there will be no further public action by the board this evening. Thank you all so much for being here.